Manx Radio Sport.
A very good evening and welcome back to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. Me, Rob Pritchard, and the team with you for the next hour to take a look ahead to the sporting action on Ireland this weekend. So, coming up tonight, the men's football season enters week 3 this weekend, plus this Sunday sees the start of the new Women's and Masters campaigns. We'll be hearing from the captain of the defending women's champions tonight. After an impressive midweek victory, FC Isle of Man are back at the Bowl tomorrow night, hoping to extend their unbeaten streak to 5 games. In rugby, we'll hear about the latest test for Douglas and Vagabonds, who are both hoping to bounce back from opening day defeats, and it's week 2 of the 2024 mixed hockey season. That is all to come this evening. Very good evening, welcome to Friday Sport Preview once again on Manx Radio. I'm Rob Pritchard here with the usual team of correspondents as well as a guest in the world of football to join us over the next hour to take a look at what's going to be happening across the Isle of Man this weekend. The football, rugby and hockey season's now in full swing, everything getting underway. The football season will turn to that first, and it is actually weekend number 3 of the new season with the early frontrunners emerging across the respective divisions. And to go through it with us all the way once again is Tony Mepham. Tony, very good evening to you.
Good evening, Rob. A little bit worried midweek with the weather conditions, but I'm glad to say everything's gone to plan, and all games are on tomorrow at the moment. I know we're tinkering a little bit with some officials, but at the moment it's looking good.
That's not what you want right at the start of the season, is it? We're expecting the weather to close in, I guess, possibly later in the campaign. But yes, fingers crossed we can get everything away as usual this weekend. Well, we're going to start with the fixtures taking place on Saturday, and we do have the first set of Sunday fixtures coming up as well this weekend. We'll come to those in just a little bit. We'll start with the fixtures taking place on Saturday. All games across the divisions kicking off at 2:30pm, and we'll start off in the Canada Life Men's Premier League. And a meeting of two sides over at Memorial Playing Fields this Saturday. Both sides yet to really kickstart their season. Moran, bottom of the table, up against Russian United. Both teams yet to win at the moment, Tony.
Yeah, it is. And if you look back at past records over the last 2 or 3 years, Rob, these two sides have always had good battles. But when you look at Moran at the moment, minus 15, just shows you that they're shifting too many goals defensively. Had a look at the team sheet. Team sheet's pretty well the same as last year, so I'm a little bit surprised. So whether teams have improved this season, other teams, or Moran are just finding it a little bit hard. But certainly Russian United, we know that they're in transition. There's a lot of good young players coming through. Cameron Dudley with a goal last week, but then you've got the older players. Aaron Hawley's in there getting goals as well. So you've got to go for Russian, I think, just to win it. Home advantage might help Moran a little bit. But the boys up front, certainly Carl Hartman and other people have got to start scoring goals to try and get them over the line.
Indeed, and then we go out to Mullin Chloe, and two sides who had both had good results last weekend. St John's United with that win against Union Mills, the game you were at, Tony, last weekend, and also Foxdale 8-1 winners over Moran. Yeah, 2
belting fixtures, and Foxdale, I think will have everybody back this week. I think Jay Chatwood will be available. He wasn't there last week, but to score 8 goals, Lee Gale with a hat-trick. You had Jason Charman in there scoring 3. You've got Charlie Harrison as well. It's absolutely fantastic. But, you know, when you look at St John's, as you rightly say, Rob, I watched that game last week, and 2-0 down at half-time, and then to come back 3-2 winners was superb. I think Sam Brown's pretty well got a full-strength team out there. Sam Ingham's recovered from his ankle injury. You've also got sort of Callum Taggart in there, who is so important when he's available to score goals up front. But 1 or 2 other players coming back from injury, which will help them. And Dean Leese's, I think, improving every game. He's had an injury to try and get over. He's doing that well. Close battle. I've seen St John's twice this year. I know Foxdale are strong with Lee Gale in there, but I think this is going to be a draw.
Very well. And then from two sides who had great results last weekend to two sides who struggled last weekend. The aforementioned Union Mills there, who lost to St John's United. They're on the road at Ramsey, who suffered a 3-0 defeat at the hands of Corinthians last week. Yeah, and I just thought Ramsey, with the experienced players that they've got in there, might just have helped them. But I looked at the combination sheet as well, and people like Matthew Montgomery and others are in the combination at the moment. So whether they've just come back from injury or holiday, haven't trained, I'm not too sure. But Union Mills looked a fantastic unit the first 45 minutes. And Luke Booth, who also played midweek for FC Isle of Man, he's absolutely flying in front of goal. And Tyler Hughes, I like the look of him on that left-hand side. Nippy little player. But defensively, Nathan Yates and Owen Quayle look so solid in that first 45.
But whatever went wrong in the second half, I'm not too sure, because suddenly St John's got in behind them. They got caught out, and Mason Brents conceded 3 goals that he didn't want to. I'm going to go for Union Mills to win it. I think they'll get things back on track. I just don't think Anthony and also others at Ramsey who are picking the squad have got their proper 11 that they need to push on at the top of this league available to them at the moment.
Just another bit of information to throw in about Union Mills. Both Luke Booth and Tyler Hughes are both included in the FC Isle of Man squad this weekend up against Cheadletown at the Bowl on Saturday night. So maybe just a bit more head scratching going on in the Union Mills camp for that one. And then over to Glen Road and a meeting of Laxey and Corinthians. Yeah,
Corinthians flying, aren't they? When you look at the results that they've had at the moment, beat them around comfortably. Then they've had 2 sort of really close games, one against St John's midweek and battled really well. And then the third game last week against Ramsey, which I didn't see that one coming, Rob. 3-0 against Ramsey, and I know you didn't either. So credit to them. And when you look at one of the 17-year-olds, he was taken away from, or taken to FC Isle of Man on Tuesday as well, Bevan Colley. So it's great. And then he goes out and scores on Wednesday for the under-18. So a lot of football being played, and Chester Bell is back fit for Corinthians. And when you look right the way through the team, Nathan has been absolutely fantastic in midfield, and Josh Kane as well, and just all round. But the one that's caught my eye is Noah Vowles, the right fullback. You'll remember him from Braddon last season, playing for Corinthians, and he runs that line so well. I think Matthew Quirk will be back in goals, so that'll help Corinthians. But Laxey, not the start they wanted. Johnny Palmer disappointed with that one. But they've got to try and defensively get things tighter. It's going to be difficult against a very young forward line of Corinthians. Going to go for Corinthians 4 out of 4.
And then we move to Onken, who've had a tough couple of fixtures to start life back in the top flight, and it's not going to get any easier for them this weekend. They're welcoming Peel this weekend.
Yeah, I think with Onken, you look at the 2 fixtures that they've played. Ayr United just lost out by the odd goal. And then St George's, I thought they'll get their first win since they've been promoted in this league. And St George's have also got some seasoned pros in there who, if they're fit, they're going to cause problems to any team. So I don't think Onken should be disheartened with it. I know tomorrow there's a lot of players missing, several key players for them. So that's going to make it even harder. But Peel, you wouldn't want to play against them at the moment. Thomas Brown, it's a horrible thing to say, but it's probably been a big plus, Lee Gale actually leaving Peel, because it's developed Thomas Brown. I don't mean that in a horrible way. You know, if you've got a player of Lee's ability, you hit him with the ball. As where now Thomas Brown is getting more. Rhys Oates is good nick with his knee injury. So it's going really well. And defensively, Aaron Castaigne's come in at centre-back and help things. And that's a problem area for them. You've sent me to the stadium tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to this one. We'll bring you all the news throughout the afternoon, but I just think Peel at the moment have really got the bit between the teeth. And I'm going to go for Peel to win comfortably.
Very well, last but certainly not least, in the Canada Life Men's Premier League, Ayr United, the remaining of the 3 undefeated teams in the top flight so far. They're 2 wins from 2 currently, coming up against a team we mentioned just a few moments ago, St George's up at Andreas. Yeah,
and let's look at St George's. What a great result that was against Onken. And Chris Bass is still not quite fit. Whether he sort of sneaks into the team this week, I don't know. But you've still got Sean Quay there. You've got other players who are quite capable of, causing problems to anyone. When you've got Kieran McNulty as well, probably one of the most prolific centre forwards over the last sort of 3 or 4 years. It's a big problem to deal with. But Ayr United, Danny Oram's signed back in again, which is good. He wasn't going to commit this season. But Ayr are definitely going to be the team to beat this year. And I think St George will just find that a little bit too tough for them tomorrow afternoon. And that's why I'm going to go for Jamie Callister and co to win that result.
Very well. Those are your 6 fixtures in the top flight. Let's take a look elsewhere. Just the 4 fixtures in Arderne and Drug Unlimited Division 2, all kicking off at 2:30pm tomorrow. We have Douglas and District versus Castletown, Pulrose United versus Michael United, Douglas Royal versus Braddon, and Douglas High School Old Boys versus Maloo. And Tony in there to 2 of the 3 unbeaten teams so far in Division 2. Braddon at the top of the tree at the moment, 3 wins from 3 away at Douglas Royal, and Douglas High School Old Boys 2 wins from 2 at home to Maloo.
Yeah, Douglas High School Old Boys, I don't know where we are with the suspension of players, because if you remember when they played that midweek game against Governors, they had 3 sent off. One was the manager, so Carl Gartland, I don't know what his position is suspension-wise. Martin King was another one. He got sent off. JJ Blander. So they're having to shift things around, but I noticed that you had to score for the under-18s for Wednesday. What a good result that was. 9-0, I think it was, against Governors Athletic. Absolutely brilliant. So it just shows you the quality of younger players they've got coming through, so we'll take that on board. But let's look at D&D against Castletown. Castletown have, still got no points on the board. The problem with Colby has been dealt with. Castletown have been made aware of what's happened. We'll wait for that to officially come out, Rob, before it's released. But Castletown do know, so you might pick up on that one. But I'm going to go for Castletown just to win. I think D&D at the moment finding it hard. Pulrose against Michael. Michael didn't have a good performance at the start, but now 13 goals last week. They're absolutely flying, so I'll go for Michael to beat Pulley. Douglas Royal against Braddon. Terry Regau scored in every game so far for them. Strong, quick. Got to try and deal with that. Braddon to win. And Douglas High School Old Boys against Maloo. I've got to go with Old Boys.
You mentioned Michael United there and their goals haul from more recently, but some great news out of Pulrose United this week, and it was great to see that they've welcomed one of these Special Olympics Isle of Man squad members to come and train with them for the forthcoming season. Dylan Butler, who's been involved with the Special Olympics Isle of Man team, their setup for the last 4 years, begun training with their setup there, and the Special Olympics team, and of course the Isle of Man FA's Disability Football Ambassador Pete Corkill, his coach, has thanked the FA and also Pulrose United for including Dylan in their setup. How good is that to see?
It's absolutely superb, and it's all about diversity and inclusion and just helping people. The Isle of Man FA are working very hard, disability football wise, and Peter's doing a terrific job, and he's got all sorts of ideas, and it's just making sure that whatever they want to do, that we can facilitate it, financially and also with their fixtures. But it's great to see, and Pulrose, what a club. It's on the up, isn't it? When you look at the last couple of years, it's been really hard for them with only one team. Now they've got two teams that are doing this sort of thing as well, and hopefully we can get a new clubhouse sorted out for them as well. And they're a great club, great bunch of people, and congratulations to everyone, especially Dylan.
Okay, so let's just take a very quick look then at the two combination leagues. So, Tony, 6 games this weekend in Canada Life Combination 1.
Yeah, 6 games in Combination 1, and Russian United against Moran. I'm going to go with Russian. They're going to be there at the end of the season. Foxdale against St John's. St John's have lost 1 out of the 3. I was surprised at the defeat that they had last week, but I think St John's should beat Foxdale. Union Mills against Ramsey. Ramsey, the champions. Big hit last week, losing those 3 points, but I still think Ramsey will be strong enough. Corinthians against Laxey, old and youth in that team going well. I'm going to go for Corinthians. Peel against Onken. Onken absolutely flying up towards the top of the table, so I'll go with Onken. And St George's against Ayr United. I think Ayr United's more experienced players in there will beat the more experienced players of St George's, because there's a few old hands in there, getting the team out each week, which is good to see.
And last but certainly not least on Saturday, 5 games in Ardern Drug Unlimited Combination 2.
Yeah, Douglas Athletic against Ramsey Youth Centre. Ramsey Youth Centre didn't have a good start, but they're back on form, so go for Ramsey Youth Centre to win that. Castletown against Douglas and District. I'll go with Douglas and District. Michael against Pulrose. Go with Michael. Braddon against Douglas Royal. Braddon to win. And Jim's against Governors Athletic. I'm going to go for Governors to take maximum points there.
Thank you, Tony. Those are the games on Saturday. Now turning our attention to Sunday, and a big weekend because it will see the start of both the latest Canada Life Women's League season and the Masters football season. And turning to the Canada Life Women's League first, who better to go through things on the Canada Life Women's League ahead of this curtain raiser than someone who's been right at the sharp end and amongst the silver over the last couple of seasons. She is the captain of the defending champions in the Women's League, Peel, and is also the captain of the Isle of Man Women's National Team. Becky Corkish, good evening.
Hi, Rob. You make me feel really good coming on here, actually.
Just reading out the CV in front of me is what I'm doing. But first off, very quickly, just before we get to the domestic season that's starting this weekend, of course, we've had the news recently that the Island Games women's team, the women's national team with regards to the Island Games, only drawn as third reserve for Orkney next year. Tony gave his views on the matter last week. For you as team captain and as one of the players as well, what's been the reaction to that?
Oh, as you can imagine, it was absolutely devastating to hear. We watched the draw live on the live Facebook stream, and the girls were absolutely gutted. We've obviously had such good success lately with the Isle of Man women's team, and it was only looking better and better and better to then take a big hit like this. Oh, the girls were absolutely gutted. It was quite a hard pill to swallow, actually.
And I think just for those who aren't caught up on this, just for a bit of clarity as well, at this stage, it is not 100% guaranteed that the team won't be there, but being third reserve, it would require 3 other football associations to drop out as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. And you know what? I've done my research into it as well to have a look at the other islands and what their records are for going to the island games. And I just don't think... I think if we were first reserve, we might have had a better chance of obviously getting there. I potentially believe Gozo could drop out. They've never been in the island games before. I don't know whether they'll actually be able to get a team. So I think if we were first reserve, we might have a little bit more of hope to be able to get there. But third reserve is just... I don't think there'll be 3 teams that will be dropping out.
Well, frustration on that front, but it has nevertheless still been a fair few positives this summer, namely, of course, recently winning the inaugural Cherry Godfrey Cup over in Jersey as well, up against Jersey in the final as well. How was that as a team to be winning that silverware?
Exactly right, Rob, and that's the thing. We don't want this Island Games to put a dampener on what we've done this year. The Cherry Godfrey Cup, obviously, it was the first of hopefully many tournaments that we get to go over and play with them. And it was absolutely brilliant. There's something different about lifting a trophy than to getting just a medal. So you could look at it that way. We might not get a medal next year with no Island Games, but we have managed to lift what is quite a heavy trophy. Anyway, which is currently actually in my car, so I probably need to give that one back to you, Meps. Part ways with it. But yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. It was an amazing trip. And it's just such a good group of girls that you just have a great laugh and you get to all live together for the weekend and play football and share the experience of what you all love doing.
Well, we all look forward to seeing how the Isle of Man women's national team develops over the next 12 to 18 months. Turning our attention then back to the domestic season. First 2 fixtures of the Canada Life Women's League, both kicking off at 2 o'clock on Sunday. We'll start with the game involving the side that you captain currently, the defending champions Peel, up against an Onken team who you actually ended up facing in the latter stages of the Women's FA Cup last season as well.
Yeah, we did. They gave us a good run for our money last season. I think it probably came as a bit of a shock to the Peel girls. I think from previous fixtures and previous results, we thought, I mean, you can never be too complacent, but I think we were kind of at ease with the fact we had Onken, and a fair play to them. They gave us an absolute brilliant game, and I'm sure Meps would agree that's exactly the kind of games that you want to be seen in a final. So yeah, like hats off to Onken. So yeah, back playing them again on Sunday, and they've obviously had quite a few signings this year as well to obviously strengthen their squad, so it'll be really interesting to see what team they field on Sunday and see how they get on.
And the other fixture involves Corinthians, who, of course, along with Peel, you've both been fighting it out at the top for the last couple of seasons. Well, Corinthians, they're going to be hosting Malou. So from your experience of playing both sides, what do you think both Corinthians and Malou can bring to the table against each other, maybe?
I think starting with Malou, I think their determination and their ambition to play is brilliant. They obviously started off as a hockey team in a summer league, and then they developed into Malou as entering in the league, and every week, regardless of the score, they've got a great attitude. They dig deep until the end, and they're just enjoying playing football. So I think they do make it hard, and each season, again, fair play to them, they work hard and they do make it more challenging each game we play them. And then from a Corinthians point of view, I think you've just got some proper raw talent in there. You've got the likes of Millie Dawson coming up, who, again, recently had an absolute stormer when we were away at the Cherry Godfrey Cup. She sees a goal and she can put it in the back of the net, no problem. So you've just got some proper raw talent with Corinthians, like Emily Rawlins coming through as well. You've got the talent of strength, ability. They're just a very, very strong side.
And just finally, before we let you go, on a slightly more general note, in terms of the actual participation in women's football, we've seen a couple of teams, the likes of Douglas Royal and Castletown, calling for more players to get involved with all different abilities. We've actually just heard this week that Douglas Royal are going to be joining the Women's League again this season. That's been confirmed. So what do you think is needed to maybe get more women and girls involved in the sport to continue expanding things?
It's a big question. I ask myself that on a regular basis, because all we want to do is grow the game and want to have as many fixtures as possible. I'm seeing the fixture sheet now, and the fact that the men have got all these games listed down and the women have only got two games listed, it's such a shame to see. So I think just people willing to try the sport. I mean, you can't knock it until you've tried it. Whether you've played before and you want to come back, or whether you've never played and you want to give something new. I think it's a tough one. It is a tough one, and I know the FA are trying hard to get it going. I know MEPS puts a lot of time and effort into it. But I think it's just the participation and people having the want to try it and the willingness to play. And it shows in the Summer League. You have new players play and they love it and they find it really enjoyable. But as soon as the Summer League's over and it becomes into the league, the winter months, the rain, the Sundays, it starts to become a put-off for some players. So I can see why they struggle to have the ambition to play, but I think it is just down to the want of women and girls wanting to continue with it or to start.
Well, Becky, thank you very much for your time as well, and all the best for the weekend as well, with the women's season getting underway. And those aren't the only 2 games on Sunday. There are 3 fixtures in the Masters football. They are Governors Athletic versus Ayr United, 2:10 kick-off at the Bowl, followed by Peel versus Corinthians, a 20-4 kick-off at the Bowl, and also Colby versus Laxey. That is a 2 o'clock kick-off at Laxey.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, turning our attentions, FC Isle of Man will be hoping to extend their unbeaten run to 5 games when they host Cheadletown in the NWCFL Premier Division on Saturday night. A much-changed Ravens side impressed in midweek as they earned a 2-1 victory at the then league leaders Ramsbottom United on Tuesday evening. Well, ahead of this weekend's latest test, I asked manager Paul Jones if the performances of some newer faces 3 days ago might leave some of the regular starters sweating a little more over their places in the first 11.
I wouldn't say it makes them sweat over their place in the squad. I think, competition's healthy. I think it's good to put, maybe some of the established names under a little bit of performance pressure. They know they've got people snapping at their heels who are capable of performing at that level, and I don't think it would have surprised anyone in the squad. Certainly the reaction has been galvanising, when everybody knows we've got a group that can go and perform and even out without some of our star players as such involved in the squad, let alone the team. That galvanises the whole group, and it shows how good we are capable of being. So yeah, I think, for the players that weren't there, it might be a game or 2 before they're back involved because of the reasons why they weren't there on Tuesday night. But certainly, as and when they do get back involved, they're going to have to prove a point that they're that they earn the shirt again.
Turning to this weekend, Cheadletown. This fixture last season, Cheadletown late 1-0 winners. They frustrated you as a team on both occasions during the last campaign. Do you expect a similar sort of challenge on Saturday?
Yeah, probably. They've a new manager and a much changed squad as well. The away game, they nicked a winner, I think, quite late on when I thought we'd played very well that day. So yeah, it's a tough game. I think we've played Bury and Ramsbottom. Obviously Bury just because of the nature of the club, and also then Ramsbottom, who were top of the league when we played them. You've got to play up, and there's that feeling of kind of maybe being a little bit underdogs that we spoke about before. And with the squad we had on Tuesday, a lack of expectation, but whereas we all knew we could do well, maybe there wasn't the outside pressure for us to do well after 2 really strong performances and 2 good results playing against Cheadle. I think maybe the expectation is on the players to go and win that game, and that's healthy, that's good, and hopefully we can handle that. But Cheadle will come trying to frustrate us, I'm sure, and also trying to make sure they nick it and walk away with the 3 points again.
When you're coming up against the likes of a Bury or a Ramsbottom United, 2 of the kind of big hitters in the league at the moment, and then coming up against a Cheadletown side similarly placed to yourselves at the moment in the table, how do you go about motivating the players to try and get the same levels out of them as you've done over the last couple of games?
I shouldn't need to. At this level, they will have learned by now that you can't switch off within a game, let alone between games. So, one of the challenges for Manx footballers playing at this level is getting the performance consistency in their individual games and a collective over 46 games. In local football, you can switch off for 5 or 10 minutes in a game and still go and be a match winner or make decisive moments, or if your team's a better team, you're more than likely going to go and win the game. Like, you can't do that at this level, and you can't show any disrespect to any team in this league because they've got good players who are capable of causing us problems. So it'll be a test. We've put a lot of energy into the last kind of week, really. The last 4 games we've had 3 away, 1 home, got some good performances, got points on the boards. We have to keep that going.
And going into this as well, you're on a 4-match unbeaten run, so 2 wins and 2 draws. 2-pronged question: what do you think has been the key to this slightly improved run of form over the last couple of games, and how do you maintain that not just this weekend but over the coming weeks in what is still quite a hectic schedule?
I can't quite put my finger on it because I think we've actually played better earlier on in the season and lost. So I think our performance levels have stayed consistently good. We're still game to game conceding fewer goal scoring opportunities to the opposition. On Tuesday night, Killy made some great saves, so that helps as well. We're just getting a little bit of a rub of the green in both areas at the moment, and then maybe that didn't quite happen early on. Referee decisions are side, which haven't always gone our way. That's irrelevant. I don't know. We're just in that little spell where, the performances are getting points, and performances that were equally as good in the first 7 games weren't getting points. And we've maintained our confidence in what we're doing. We're probably gelling a little bit more as a group because we're just playing more games together. So hopefully it's the start of a long run of games where we're getting points more often than not, and that's the challenge on Saturday, to make sure that continues.
And finally, just on the squad itself, you did, as you've already mentioned, going into the Ramsbottom game, made a few changes. There were a couple of players dealing with a couple of little knocks and bruises and whatnot. So can we expect any more changes to the squad this weekend?
Well, I think I've said to the players, when they've got the shirt, then it's theirs to lose, really. And the players that played on Tuesday night were fantastic. Luke Booth, Tom Career, Rowan and Sam Baines, who are asked the jobs of each other. So it's very difficult for a manager to then not have them in the squad at least on Saturday. So there's not going to be huge changes from Tuesday night. Some of the younger ones need minutes on the pitch. Callum Sherry suspended after sending off last weekend against Bury. So Jacob's back, Jack McVeigh's back. So there's a few that we can kind of tweak a little bit with. But the 2 forwards in particular are exceptional on Tuesday night. And I don't think with the lads and the injuries where they are would be wise to rush them back in. So they've put me in a really good position in terms of I've got difficult decisions to make. But if they keep playing well and keep scoring, then there's not many managers who can drop them on that basis.
FC Alabama manager Paul Jones ahead of his side's NWCFL Premier Division clash with Cheadletown at the Bowl at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Well, Tony, we've got just over a minute, and I suppose FC Alabama, it was a tough August for them, just 1 win in 6 during August, but unbeaten in their first 4 games in September. What do you think has been the difference maybe in this recent little upturn?
Probably the way they're working on the pitch. That was evident last Saturday for us, Rob, because they worked so hard, and that's why they got the result out of it. And then when I watched it midweek, I just thought to myself, this is going to be a tough game for them. But, they brought new players in, and the new players have stepped up to it because they want to be part of it. And with the other players now having to fight their way back in, it's a nice problem for Paul Jones, and credit to them, because I think we're all thinking at it, this is going to be a tough season. But now they've played 2 of the top sides and done ever so well against them, so well done to them all.
And just very quickly, got around 30 seconds here, but 2 of the scorers in midweek were newer faces. Tom Career, who's been in and out the set of the last couple of seasons, and also Luke Booth as well. So pause for thought for Paul Jones maybe on alongside his regular starters.
Well, exactly, because Sean Doyle, you're going to pick him anyway, aren't you? Because if he's going to bang the goals in to get the results for you, you've always got to be there. You've got Charlie Higgins, who's going to finish his ban and come back in. You've also got Steve Whitley down that right-hand sside. So it's absolutely brilliant. And you can see what a great start to the season Luke Booth has had. And well done to Tom Career. He's sitting there patiently.
Manx Radio Sport.
Thank you, Chanel, and welcome back to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. We've taken a look at the footballing action coming up this week, and now it's time to turn to matters rugby. And Douglas and Vagabonds face their second respective games of the new season this weekend, both looking to try and bounce back from tough results for Douglas in the Regional 2 Northwest and Vagabonds in Counties 3 ADM Lancs Cheshire, respectively, last Saturday. We're going to turn to Douglas first, and it's their first home game of the latest campaign at Portashee this weekend. They're going to be welcoming Widnes in the Regional 2 Northwest. And to take a look at things, we're going to be speaking to a man who's part of the setup currently and was also part of the side that suffered that chastening defeat to Furwood Waterloo last weekend. Liam Kirkpatrick of Douglas, good to see you. Good evening.
How are you doing, you all right?
Very well, thanks. Very well. So, first off, just very quickly, turning our attention to the game last weekend, Furwood Waterloo, a 33-0 defeat. Now, that fixture historically has been quite a close one in the last couple of seasons, but not quite so this time. So, what were the thoughts of the team after that result last weekend?
Yeah, we were obviously disappointed to, first game on the ground, have a good start to the season. It wasn't the best way to start, but it was 7-0 at half-time, which actually we kind of looked like we were on top, so we were hoping in the second half we keep it going and get a few points when we get there. But I think we ran out of steam a bit and a few things didn't click. But there's a lot of new lads in, and it's learning, how to play with each other. So fingers crossed tomorrow we'll get it, it'll click and then we'll be there. But it was as much as we were disappointed after the game, we took a lot away from it looking back at the video.
Well, speaking ahead of the season starting to the head coach, Phil Kringle, and he mentioned that this similar sort of thing happened last season. It took you a bit of a while to get going, but once you got into stride, started to string together some good performances. Now, no doubt you'll want to try and get those good results on the board as soon as possible, but are you willing as a side maybe to be patient a little bit, given like what you said, there's a couple of new additions that need a bit of time to bed in?
Yeah, we kind of have to, each game's different, and obviously different players coming in and out with holidays or injuries, but it's sort of just finding your way through it. It's a long season, to be fair, at the end of the day. It's all the way through the winter. People come and go, but we kind of just deal with it. It's pretty attritional, really, but hopefully we get there.
And Furwood Waterloo last season were one of the front runners toward the top, really. Now, Birkenhead Park seemed to steam away with it right towards the end there. So you were coming up against some pretty solid opposition last time out.
Yeah, it was obviously we wanted to go out and win, but they're a very established team. They've been in this league a long time, and I've been playing them for 4 or 5 years now, and they've got the same players still a lot. They know each other, and what we didn't really account for probably was I say we didn't account for, we can't really choose it over here. They've played 4 games in pre-season, which we always really struggle with. Like, we had one run out in Birmingham in pre-season, but a lot of the lads were away, so that didn't even really count. So you kind of start on the back foot before you even start. But obviously, few more games and we'll catch up, hopefully.
And that's one of the things that I suppose Isle of Man sides, not just in rugby but other sports, have to deal with. Because if you want a pre-season friendly, you've got to get the finances and all the logistics together to get yourself off island just to get some match minutes. Yeah, exactly. And trying to convince 18 lads to go away 12 times a year already in the winter, when it's up at 5:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, coming back 9:30 at night. It sounds like a good laugh, but it is a long old season. So then saying, let's go and do a couple more in the summer, it takes a bit of convincing. Absolutely. Well, let's take a look then towards this weekend. Widnes the visitors to Portishead, 1:30pm kickoff down there this Saturday. So from your side of things personally, to start with, Widnes, do you personally have any experience of coming up against them? And if so, what sort of challenge, what sort of strengths do they offer? Yeah, I reminded in the weekly email this week, there's only 3 people playing from last time we played them in 2017. There's me, Ralph, who else was it? Dog, I think, Carmichael Ferns. And I can't remember who else it was. But yeah, when we played them then, we had an absolute nightmare. The last thing I remember, which doesn't help. But I think we had a red card, a broken nose, and a broken ankle maybe, last time we played them. So hopefully it'll be better than that. But that was at their place, but obviously that was 2017, so... 7 years have passed since then, so you're expecting something completely different this time around. Yeah, they've just come up from the league below. So hopefully we can give them a bit of a shock, as we've been, hopefully been playing better rugby than they have. But obviously you don't know who they've got in the off season and all. So hopefully we can give them a bit of a shock and get a win. Be nice. But also back on home ground as well. You go to some of these places and maybe sometimes the slightly the wetter, muddier conditions that you get during the winter benefits some teams better than others. So Portishead, does it play to Douglas's strengths? At the minute, it's actually quite dry. Considering how much rain we had, it's quite impressive. We were training on it on Thursday, and I'd say our team, we're not the lightest, but we are one of the lighter ones probably. So I'd like to say we like to throw it around a bit and, bit of attack and rugby. So I think based on the forecast for tomorrow, we should be good, yeah. Fingers crossed. Excellent. Well, all the best to you, Liam. Thank you very much indeed. Well, we're going to turn our attention then to Vagabonds this time around. Counties 3, ADM, Lancs, Cheshire. Now, after an opening day defeat at home at Balafletcher to Ormskirk last weekend, they're actually on the road at Orrell. And to take a look at this, our rugby correspondent is back, Dave Christian. So, Dave, Vagabonds' perspective, you were at that game against Ormskirk last weekend. And one thing you pointed out, that although it was defeat ultimately for Vagabonds, there were quite a lot of positives they could take out of that game.
Yeah, I mean, they were in the lead at half-time. They were 8-5 in front. Solid first-half performance, dominated the scrum, even Stevens in the set-piece. And I can't really put my finger too much on exactly what they did wrong in the second half. The Ormskirk fullback, Joe Whitfield, he was also the captain and player of the match. He scored 2 and he made 4, including the 2 he scored. And when you've got one exceptional player in the other team, it's very difficult sometimes to put a stop to him. He was able to read the game well. He had pace. He was running attacking lines from inside his own half. And that meant that he was studying, he was looking for where the gaps are, and he was getting the ball sent wide. And if he had 5 metres of space in a wide channel, he was just outpacing the defence. And Sometimes you find that the other side have got somebody who's pretty much unplayable in open play, and you can't really do too much about it. Vaga's just caught maybe a little bit short, so if anything, defence-wise this week in training, they might have been shaping up to maybe just try and keep a little wider. But it was unfortunate for them to meet a guy who's an excellent player and was on form last week too. So this week at Orrell, be a different kettle of fish. First thing that I observed from looking at the stats over the week is that Orrell conceded last week. They had a fixture away at Duckenfield, which isn't a million miles away in terms of travelling distance. And Orrell have also had a 5-point deduction, and that indicates to me that they might have been struggling for players. And if they were struggling for players last week, with not having to travel too far, they might be struggling again this week, which will give Vagabonds a glimmer of hope there to pick something off from this game. And remember, Orrell, I was just saying to Liam off air that 1991, Orrell nearly won the English Rugby Clubs Championship. Now the Premiership. Back then it was Courage League One. They were only one drop goal away from winning that. Bath actually scored a late drop goal in their game, and that meant Orrell finished second. So they've taken a deep dive since those heady days. But there's still a lot of guys at that club who've still got a lot of pride in the Orrell badge, and they'll be trying to infect the players with that. And I just had a quick look on their social media output. They're suggesting the game's going ahead, and they're also suggesting they got second team games. So whatever the blip was last week, it looks like it might have been just a blip. So we'll wait and see. But Vaga's definitely got the players up there. If they're all available to travel, and that's the big thing. Liam alluded to it earlier. It's a long season, and those early starts and late finishes seem fun at first, but the novelty soon wears off, and we will have to wait and see what Vaga's team has announced. They haven't announced it just yet, but hopefully we'll have that for tomorrow, and we'll be able to give you an update at some stage during the afternoon.
Indeed, and just going back to a more general point that you made at the start of last week as well, so for those who don't know why Vagabonds are now back in Counties 3 ADM rather than Counties 4, there is no Counties 4 this year. It's effectively a merger of the remaining teams of Counties 4 ADM moving into Counties 3 ADM, Lancs, Cheshire. It is a merger into that division. And one thing you pointed out going into the Ormskirk game was it is going to be a bit of a mishmash in terms of the standard of certain teams from above and the one below as well. So not just the personnel, like you say, the situation Orrell had last week and seems to have been sorted out this week, but there could be some differences in quality between the sides in this league this year.
Yeah, absolutely. The league organisers, I'm not going to be critical of them just yet, at least. But they have to organise the league structure on the basis of geographical differences. And sometimes, if that's your main driver, sometimes you will have mismatches crop up in playing standard. We're only in week 2, so we haven't really seen any of those. I studied the charts last week. There was a couple of walkovers, but no massive wins. So we'll just keep an eye on that one. And as soon as you see a 100-pointer going in, you know that the geographical distance has been beaten by playing standard matchups. So it's very awkward. They do a great job, and I certainly wouldn't like to be involved in it.
Yeah, sometimes in challenging situations. Well, in terms of wider league formats, if you want to call it that, just finally before we let you go as well, we do understand that there's been an update regarding the domestic competitions going into the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we've got tomorrow morning at Portishead, 11 o'clock, Douglas Casuals, or Douglas Celts. I think Celts/Casuals is probably the best way to describe them. Look to be making a mini revival. They've got a friendly against Western Vikings. That's your curtain raiser for the main fixture, the Widnes game at 1:30. But we've got Manx Shield structure in place. It's only Ramsey, Southern Nomads and Western Vikings that are going to be playing. Everybody else is struggling to get a second team out. And that's not unique to the Isle of Man. That's a common problem throughout the United Kingdom. And we've seen all sorts of weird and wonderful attempts to fix the problem. But the playing base took a knock in COVID that's never really been recovered from. And all we can do is just keep working with the junior sections in each of the clubs and hope that gives a conveyor belt of players that are going to come off equipped to play adult rugby as they reach the end of their junior stuff. But at the moment, it's kind of awkward. So we've got that 3-way competition for the Manx Shield. All three of those clubs as well entered in the Cheshire competitions. Ramsey are in the Cheshire Vars, off the top of my head, and Southern Nomads and Western Vikings playing Cheshire Bowl. They're all played on league format, so that gives everybody some extra fixtures before Christmas. Then, of course, late after Christmas, we'll have a look, see what happens with Vagabonds League. The word on the street is it's probably going to split into two divisions, and they'll play off for a Division 1 championship, a Division 2 championship, because there are 14 teams in there, and you don't want teams at the bottom end having to play 13 away fixtures during the season. So the Manx Cup will kick in at some stage at the end of the season. That'll bring Liam and Douglas and Vagabonds into the fray with Ramsey and Southern Nomads, and hopefully that'll make a decent finish to the season.
Dave, thank you very much, as always. So just a reminder of your rugby fixtures this weekend. In the Regional 2 Northwest, Douglas versus Widnes at Portashee, a 1:30pm kickoff on Saturday. Vagabonds are away at Orrell in Counties 3 ADM, Lancashire, Cheshire on Saturday. And before that Douglas game, there is a friendly, Douglas Celts versus Western Vikings, as Dave Christian has just mentioned there, an 11am kickoff at Portashee. We'll be talking all matters hockey in the next couple of minutes, though.
Wedding planners and photographers looking for a truly unique backdrop for wedding photography? Then consider the historic Queen's Pier in Ramsey for a stunning coastal backdrop for truly memorable photographs. It offers a fantastic location to photographers in exchange for an affordable donation. Visit the Queen's Pier Restoration on Facebook, or to discuss photo opportunities, call Graham on 355 104. That's 355 104. This audio has been kindly sponsored by Paul Carey & Sons.
As a long-established firm, Man Benham offer a comprehensive range of legal services assisting individuals and businesses, from sole traders to the island's largest employers. Man Benham have built up a reputation for giving a fast, efficient, cost-effective service with a personal edge. From buying and selling property to drawing up leases, employment matters, contracts and more. Call Man Benham for your free consultation on 639 350.
Man Benham, here for you. The summer furniture sale is on now at Riley's in Cool Road, Braddon, with up to 25% off top brand ranges like Norfolk Leisure and Pacific Lifestyle, so you can relax for less. Riley's, follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
The Isle of Man Festival of Motoring is back this September, and this year we're celebrating the very best of Britain with a huge gathering of British classic and sports cars. Have a ride with the Sporting Bears at Douglas Prom on Saturday the 21st, with all proceeds going to Lukey's Aid charity. Find out more at iomfm.com. Enjoy the best of British with the Isle of Man Festival of Motoring, revving up the island this September. Manx Radio Sport.
Well, finally this evening we're going to be taking a look at hockey matters here on the Isle of Man, and after the brand new season roared into life last Saturday, it is game week 2 of the 2024 mixed hockey season. Games across all 4 senior divisions this Saturday, as well as the mixed under-15s league, and some intriguing starts across the respective leagues. And to go through this latest set of fixtures with us is our hockey correspondent Ben Cunningham. So Ben, very good evening to you first and foremost.
Good evening, Rob. Lovely to speak to you.
Indeed. Right, let's get straight into it then, and we're going to start with the 4 fixtures taking place in the Mixed Premier League, and the earliest pushback there is at 11:05 at Castle Rushen High School, and it seems quite apt that we're going to start with this one because I believe it's one that you're picking out as a potential game of the day on Saturday. Harlequins A versus Castletown Celts in the Mixed Premier League.
Yeah, I've got this down as game of the day, game of the weekend, really, Rob. Harlequins A got a lot of new signings coming through and only just lost out to Vikings A 2-0 last weekend. For Castletown Celts, 3-2 winners over Backers B last weekend. Backers B gave them a good run for the money. This one I think will be very, very close, and it could just come down to one bit of magic. But I think Harlequins, with their new signings, might just get one over Castletown here.
Very well then, 2 games back-to-back in the Premier League, Mixed Premier League at QE2. We'll start with the 12:35 pushback, and that sees Valkyries B, who ran their A team, who were the defending champions, very close last weekend, but they have a big task against them at QE2. They're facing Backers A, Ben.
Yeah, it's going to be a big task for Valkyries B this weekend. Like you say, only just narrowly lost out last weekend to their A team. However, though, Backers A have got a wide variety of players that can cause problems, and I think they might just have that problem this weekend. So Bacchus win on that game.
Straight after that, Valkyrie, who we've just mentioned, the defending mixed Premier League champions, up against Bacchus B, also at QE2, this time at 2:05.
Yeah, of course, Valkyrie, like you say, got the winning start and they'll want to keep up that winning start. Bacchus B, though, of course, narrowly lost out to Castletown Celts last weekend, and they'll want to make up for that loss last weekend, but Valkyrie will want to keep their 100% record up, so a Valkyrie win.
And last but certainly not least, in the mixed Premier League, we have an intra-club derby at the NSC at 2:05, and that sees Vikings A up against Vikings B.
Yeah, intra-club derby, you would favour the A team to come out, get one over the B team, but of course, look at last weekend when Valkyries A played Valkyries B, their B team held them off right till the end, and then in the last 15 minutes, Valkyries A won. So who knows what could happen this weekend, but you would favour the A team, so Vikings A win on that one.
So that's the mixed Premier League. We've then got 3 games in mixed Division 1, and the earliest pushback in that one is at 12:35. That is at the NSC, and it's another intra-club derby at Vikings, and it's between Vikings C and Vikings D, two sides that suffered defeats last weekend. Vikings D, an 8-1 defeat at the hands of Ramsey A, whilst Vikings C lost to Castletown Southerners 11-1. So both sides wanting to make a statement maybe, Ben, this weekend.
Yeah, like you say, both sides suffered heavy defeats last weekend, but when these two sides met last season, I was looking back, Vikings D got one over Vikings C both times, so this one really is interesting how it could play out, whether the D team could get one over the C team again this year. We'll wait and see.
And then 2 games pushing back at 2:05 in Mixed Division 1. The first of those at Ramsey Grammar School is two sides who managed to complete opposite of the games we've just mentioned there. Two sides who got off to a great start. Ramsey A, 8-1 winners, as we mentioned, over Vikings D up against Bacchus C, who were 4-2 winners over Valkyries C last Saturday.
Yeah, Ramsey A made a really strong statement last weekend and scoring plenty of goals, like you say. Of course, Bacchus C got a good win as well. However, Ramsey A are looking really strong, and I think they're going to be the team to beat in this division, and they are my favourites at the moment, looking at the way things are playing out so far. But I think it's going to be a Ramsey A win on that one.
And Ramsey A, of course, is relegated from the top flight last season in the mixed leagues. And finally, in Mixed Division 1, also at 2:05 at Castle Rushen High School, Castletown Southerners versus Valkyries C. Castletown Southerners, as we mentioned, 11-1 winners last weekend. What hope do you think Valkyries C have got in this one? Because that is an imperious start by Castletown Southerners last week.
I think Valkyries C will be hoping Castletown Southerners just don't have what they had for breakfast last weekend, Rob, to be honest with you. Yeah, Castletown Southerners absolutely formidable last weekend, 11 goals on the opening weekend. It's something I've not really heard of before, but they managed it. Valkyries C, though, they're just going to have to hope that they can keep Castletown Southerners' front line away from the goal.
Well, that's Mixed Division 1. Moving to Mixed Division 2, 3 games there. Also, 2 of those pushing back at 12:35. And at Ramsey Grammar School, it'll see Bacchus Colts, who was 6-0 winners over Valkyries D on the opening weekend 6 days ago, up against a Ramsey Ravens side with the points to prove. They lost 8-1 at the hands of Harlequins B last weekend.
Yeah, Bacchus Colts looking really strong on the opening weekend. Ramsey Ravens definitely going to be licking their wounds after defeat to Harlequins, the newly promoted side into Division 2. This could be a close game if Ramsey can make up for what happened last weekend, but Bacchus Colts looking really strong, so Bacchus Colts win on that one.
And the other 12:35pm pushback is all the way down in the south of the island, Castle Rushen High School, and that is the aforementioned Harlequins B, who won 8-1 against Ramsey Ravens last weekend, up against Castletown Camegs. They were also victorious in a Castletown derby last weekend, up against Castletown Cushags.
Yeah, this will be a really interesting game, I reckon. This could be very close. Of course, Harlequins got that win last weekend over Ramsey Ravens, but then Camags obviously got their win over their fellow team in this division. Camags could cause problems here for Harlequins if Harlequins are not careful, but Harlequins looked really strong last weekend. Of course, the goals came from a wide variety of their players in the squad, as did Camags, so this could be a very evenly matched game. So I'm going to just go for a Harlequins win on this one.
Very well, and the late pushback in Mixed Division 2 on Saturday, 3:35 at Castle Rushen High School. Two sides who lost on the opening weekend, Castletown Cushags versus Valkyries D.
Yeah, and I'm going to go for a Valkyries D win on this one. I think Valkyries D will just have the edge over Cushags, but don't rule out Cushags to cause maybe a surprise in this game, because as we say week in, week out, every year, Rob, never rule out a Castletown team causing a shock.
Indeed. Well, finally in the senior leagues on Saturday, Mixed Division 3, 3 games there. The early pushback at 11:05 sees Vikings E versus Backers D at the NSC. Vikings E 6-0 winners over Ramsey Rookies last weekend. Backers D 4-2 winners over the newly formed Backers Mixed Bucks.
Yeah, this one really interesting, because Vikings E is going to be a team of youth, whereas Backers D is going to be a team of senior and experienced players. They'll love me for calling them that, I'm going to give them that praise, because they are very senior and very experienced in the way they play. Backers D could cause Vikings E a couple of problems here, but I think Vikings E's youth just might give them the edge over Backers D. So Vikings E win.
And then at 12:35 at King William's College is Castletown Cosney, who were 7-0 winners over Castletown Carrick last week, up against Harlequins C.
Yeah, this will be a really good game. Two evenly matched sides. Of course, I'm gutted. I'm across in the UK this weekend, so I won't be getting to play this weekend in the Mixed C team. So I do wish them all the best. But yeah, I think this one will be very close. It might just come down to one goal between the two sides. I'm very much on the fence on this one.
And the late pushback in Mixed Division 3, 3:35 at Ramsey Grammar School. That's Castletown. Carrick, who we mentioned, suffered a pretty hefty defeat, 7-0 to Castletown Cosney last weekend, up against that Backers Mixed Bucks side, newly formed as we've mentioned, only lost by a 2-goal margin to Backers D last weekend.
Yeah, and Backers Mixed Bucks, of course, as we said last weekend, we didn't know what to expect from them, but they are looking like a very strong outfit. But Castletown Carrick, of course, they lost to their fellow Castletown team in this division as well. But that's not to say that they're not up for the fight in this league. Maybe it was just a case of, because Castletown have got so many teams, maybe this is Castletown's bottom team. We just don't know. But I don't want to call them that. But I think this will be a really good game, and of course it could be a close one as well. So I'm gonna go for a Backers Mixed Bucks win on this one. But I wouldn't be surprised if it maybe ends as a draw.
Very well. Last but certainly not least on Saturday, Ben, we've got 30 seconds here. 3 games in the Mixed Under-15s League.
Yep, and they are Harlequins against Vikings, and I'm going to go for a Harlequins win. Backers against Castletown Savers. I'm going to go for a Backers win. And the last one is Ramsey against Valkyries, and I'm going to go for a Valkyries win.
Excellent. Well, Ben Cunningham, thank you very much indeed. That's Ben Cunningham, our hockey correspondent there. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We're just about out of time this week on Friday Sport Preview. Many thanks to my guests and correspondents this week. And if you do need any further details on the football, rugby and hockey fixtures taking place on the Isle of Man and beyond, please feel free to check out all the details. We have full schedules over on the Manx Radio Sports Hub over at manxradio.com. And if you've missed anything from tonight's programme, don't forget this programme will be available as a podcast very shortly after its conclusion. Thank you very much for joining us. Have yourself a wonderful Friday evening and also a wonderful weekend as well, whatever you're doing. But from me and the team here, until next time, have a very good evening, and it is bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.